change. This train not taking passengers.
Hey everyone. I'm trying to remember when the last time was that I actually did a solo drop. It's been a while. Maybe a month? I don't know. I've got a job to do out in Mulgrave today, so I was going to run out there and then go to the studio, but I've got a meeting that's starting in about an hour, so yeah, I figured screw it. My house looks like a what's it called? A refugee camp right now. There's just shit everywhere. So I'll stuff it, I'll suck it up, I'll get it done here, and then I'll head out after my meeting. Yeah. I always feel awkward when I do these on my own. You'd think I would have gotten used to it by now. I don't remember when I first did one on my own. Must have been 2017. So 5 years of talking to myself. You think you get better at it. But, yeah, nah. Anyway, been busy. Jon has just gotten back from overseas. And I know I'd said it on one of the last ones that I'd done by myself. I had a whole bunch of guests lined up, obviously for the next season, which starts in May. But yeah, it's just been a bit chaotic around here. I haven't stopped working and just had to take care of a few things. So yeah, everything was just put on the back burner. And to be honest, I'm going away at the end of June, so I don't know when it'll all get picked back up to speed. I'm just burnt out. It's been a long 3 years, like with COVID and everything. And I actually just got back from the doctors. I went to check something that was unrelated, and I mentioned that I was going overseas. And she said, the doctor said, yeah, when was the last time? I should probably look at getting my COVID, updated jabs and my flu shots, because everyone that's coming back from overseas is coming back sick. I said, okay. So she's made an appointment for me to come in and get the jab on Friday. Today's appointment cost $145. I got $50 refund because of Medicare. So I paid $85 to see the quack today, and I paid $30 to get my script filled. And then I'm going back on Friday to get a jab, which is essentially free. But I think you still pay for the visit. I don't know. But I was just thinking about it, like, fuck me. Last night I did an airport pickup. I had to go pick up a colleague from Tullamarine. And I was there for 2 hours because his plane got delayed. And then once he came out, like, his plane got delayed by like 45 minutes or something, an hour. I don't know. I got there late anyway. But, yeah, his plane was delayed. And then, so I bit the bullet, when I realized he wasn't coming out. So I bit the bullet, parked the car because I was in that 1 minute loading zone. That was funny. I was sitting there and it was packed. It was absolutely chockers. And we were all just sort of filing up, in the 1 minute thing. And there was a car that was just empty with its hazards on in front of me. And there's a big red sign that says, do not leave cars unattended or you will be towed. And it just had its hazards on. There was no one there. And eventually, like, there was a whole team of guys out there. I'm guessing they were assessing whether or not they should tow it. And this dude comes walking by, and he was on the phone, like, looking frantic and, like, staring towards where the terminals are. But he was walking back towards his car, and he was, like, yelling into his phone. And he got into his car and, like, drove away. And the attendants that were there were sort of yelling at him. And I don't think he even registered that they existed. Oh, the fuck, like, he was there, like, that car was there before I got there, and I'd been waiting for a couple of minutes, like, they gave me about 10 minutes, and eventually said, look, you got 1 more minute, mate, and you got to leave. I said, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. So he had to have been there for at least, 10 to 15, but they didn't tow it. But it was just funny, like, his nonchalant, like, attitude when he got back, like, he looked like he was under a bit of pressure, but he didn't even register the guys that were yelling at him to move his car or, like, get answers. It was just funny. Like, the balls, but not even the balls and the audacity. It's just like, not even the nerve. Like, I want to, the boldness. The boldness is probably the best word. What a champion. I bet that guy sends food back, like in restaurants. Yeah, undercooked, send it back. What a champ. Anyway, at the airport, I was there for 2 hours and I paid $30 in parking. And I said it to, old mate. I go, that means the average person has to work like an hour to be able to, at least an hour, maybe more, to pay for 2 hours of parking at the airport. Is that where we are now? I mean, just for me to visit the doctor, I had to have $140 or whatever on hand. Thank God I got paid for a job the other day, so I had a bit of money in my account. But it's all gone. Cost of living, fuck me, man. I woke up last week. It's probably the most depressing day I've had in a long time. I had rent on my apartment, rent on the studio, due both on the same day. And I don't know how it's managed to work its way around to that, but that's what it is now. And I had my car rego expired and my bike rego expired as well by like a while. Like the car rego was, I think, 2 weeks out. I hadn't paid it because I was using a company car over the last couple of weeks. And it was at the mechanics as well, so I just forgot about it. And the bike, I hadn't been on the bike in over 6 weeks. So it was just sat there in the garage. And I'm like, Jesus, I better pay these before like they start asking for me to re-register the cars properly. But yeah. I'm like, I don't even have that money to spend. I don't know where I found it. It just hurts. Anyway, at the airport, that was freaking funny. Because I was there, like I got there, bought a coffee, waited, Eventually I got a call from my old mate and he said, hey, we've been delayed, blah, blah, blah. Do me a favor. Can you get me a coffee? Because I'm dying. I'm like, yeah, no worries. So I bought him a coffee and just waited with it. So it's like people watching. I'm just looking around. And there's like an inordinate amount of like chauffeurs, wearing the black suit, black hat. Not really black hat, but they're wearing the black suit, black tie. And a lot of them had like Emirates placards with names on them. There was one sick cunt with the name on a phone. And he was the one sitting down as well. That was the funniest. I'm actually just realizing it now. All the drivers were like South Asian of appearance, right? And they all had like their Emirates placard with the name of like who they're picking up. But there was one sick cunt, overweight white guy, and he was the only one sitting down, and he was the only one with the name on the phone. I don't know. I just realized it now. There was one dude, I swear to God, I should have gotten a photo of him. He was such a king. I should have requested a selfie like he was a celebrity. It was a driver, and he was like sort of small in frame, South Asian of appearance. And I'm not saying this to be racist. It's just what it was, right? But he was wearing this tie that was like wide. It was like a wide tie. I don't think I've ever seen a relative wear it. It reminded me of my uncle that lived in Mildura. There was an older gentleman. I don't know where he would have found that tie. Like, I know you can't buy them. And like, I know there's always like the fashion thing, like are they wearing thin, wides, mediums, whatever. I know like skinny ties were massive, back in the JT era of like 2010. And now, not so much. But this guy had like the widest tie. It looked almost like a comical prop. He was a grown man. He had like a really badass looking moustache. He was a grown man, but it looked like his father dressed him, like, and just pulled out whatever he had in the wardrobe. But he stood so proudly. I want to shake his hand and have my photo taken with him and like frame it and put it in my house as if it was some sort of dignitary from overseas. Biggest legend. And then as I'm looking at the names on the cards, and like they were the widest names in the world. So it was like Parker, Ward, what was the other one? There was another one, like Bates. And then I started laughing because I'm like, imagine if it was like, what's his name? Is it the Green Goblin? Is that the villain? No. No, it's not Green Goblin. I'm not talking about. Yeah, I thought of Norman Bates. He was a serial killer. And the Green Goblin was Norman Osborn. That's where it was. Yeah, and I remembered Norman Bates, the serial killer. Yes, Norman Bates is a serial killer. He's the killer from Psycho. Jesus Christ, why am I getting this mixed up? Anyway, yeah, so I remembered Norman Bates. I thought, Jesus, imagine if it's actually the serial killer on the plane that's coming off. And I saw Parker, and I thought, Peter Parker, like imagine if it was Peter Parker on the plane getting ready to photograph, like, Norman Bates, the serial killer, and then swings into, like, does the costume change in the toilets and saves everyone. And then I just thought, I don't know, this is what my brain was manifesting. I was exhausted. But then the next name I saw was Drescher, and I started laughing, and I just went, Jesus Christ, can you imagine Fran Drescher on that plane with Norman Bates? The most annoying voice in the world. Okay, can you imagine being on a plane with Fran Drescher and she's just going off? And of course, it's not Fran Drescher, the actor. It's Fran Fine, the nanny, obviously, just going off. And then just as I've said that, I thought, could you picture a more annoying person to be stuck on a plane with? The name Shapiro came up. And I started laughing. Like, I actually laughed, and this guy next to me looked at me weird. And I'm like, I choked on my coffee. I was like, sorry. But if you couldn't get one annoying Jewish character, you went to the other one who's actually a real person. And especially because we were making fun of Ben Shapiro on the last episode that I did with low-hanging fruit. I don't know. I found it really funny. Yeah, but this is what happens to me at airports. The other thing I noticed, which I've seen from time to time, but like for some reason, because it was so packed, I don't know, maybe it was just the flight. Like, I don't know. But there was, I noticed people with flowers. When people get off a plane, they typically receive a bunch of flowers. And it's usually, it is what it is. But two types of people stood out in the crowd last night. And it was so funny, like the contrast between the two. So you've got these older men, right? Not old, not like 60, more like probably in their late 40s, mid-40s maybe. And they were like South Asian again, right? It was just the flights, that were coming in. Again, I'm not being racist. It's who was there, right? So there were two types of flower handlers. And the first one was not the first one, because there was many people that were doing, like, that had flowers, but there was one incident that really was like, there was an older gentleman, and he had his flowers, and as he's standing there, like, this smile, like, comes over his face, and this little kid comes running up to him, right? So kid grabs, like, his legs, gives him a hug, and then he's sort of like, knelt down and, like, I'm guessing it was his son. He's like, kissed him on the forehead or whatever and giving him like this really long hug. It's really sweet. And then he's handed the flowers to a woman who's rocked up and like, greeted her. And I'm assuming that's his wife or whatever, the mother of the kid. And then the kid's like, still sort of frantically clinging at him. So he's like knelt down again and done an embrace or whatever. And there was like this, older white woman that was watching it. And then the South Asian mother, like, glanced over and like just smiled like awkwardly, but like everyone's just smiling. It's like, you can almost see like the Hallmark music playing in the background. And then there were the other ones, and there was a few of them peppered through the crowd. They're like young dudes, probably like in their early 20s at the most, early 20s. Like they were very young looking. They were white guys, and they were walking around with like a bouquet of flowers, almost like clenched. Almost clenched in their fists and just like looking around with like these eyes, these manic eyes that were rabid. And I'm guessing that they were there to pick up their girlfriends or whatever and sort of got told that they should bring flowers by someone, or sort of thought, I should take flowers, but I don't want to. Or I do want to, I just don't have the balls to just stand here with a set of flowers, like a bouquet of flowers in case someone thinks I'm a pussy. That's the only way I could describe it. I'm pretty sure I've taken flowers to the airport before. I've taken, when someone's asked me to pick them up, I've turned up in like black slacks, a tie, sunnies, and like a little sign. I've done that. It's freaking hilarious. But yeah, these dudes, they were like patrolling the grounds, and their eyes are like darting left and right, probably like out of fear, like the way a wounded animal might retaliate. And they just looked like they'd taken like 100 peptides or something. They were about to go to the gym because their forearms were like just veined out, and they looked pale. Like just in case someone spotted them that they worked with or went to the gym with, that might call them gay because they had flowers for their girlfriend coming in. I legitimately laughed. Yeah, takes you back to the awkwardness of like post-teen years. But it really is something. Man, I was also on the train yesterday, but I was on a different line. Like, so I grew up on the Pakenham-Cranbourne line, right? Obviously, like Clayton, Oakley, Dandy, Huntingdale, like all those sort of things. And you catch a train from Noble Park and you go all the way to the city. It's the same stations every time. I was on the Glen Waverley line because I was driving my car was at the shop. So a mate of mine offered to pick me up from a state. And I said, well, let me catch a train station out to closest to where you are. And then, you can take me the rest of the way to get my car. I was like, yeah, sweet, easy. So I ended up going to a station near his parents' house, which is on the Glen Waverley line. And the last time I'd taken the Glen Waverley line, Jesus, I think I've taken it maybe once in the last decade. Oh, what was I doing? I was doing something. And I was meeting someone at Glen Waverley. This is years ago. Maybe I was starting a new job. I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I was on the Glen Waverley line. And it's a total, like, anyone that knows this, like, that takes the same line every day or has taken the same line for, like, the majority of their lives, when they start getting on a new train line, it's just different. So different people, different trains, different vibe, different stations, and, like, with weird names. Like, on the Glen Waverley line, there's a train called Darling. The hell's Darling? It's not even a suburb. Like, I don't even know what it is. It's somewhere past Kooyong and whatever. I should look it up. It's the same thing down in, like, the Sandringham line. I've taken that once randomly too. Hang on, here we go. Darling Railway Station is a commuter railway station in Malvern East. Okay, consists of this, blah, 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 blah. It's on the Glen Waverley line, yes. The station's located, yeah. Why is it named Darling? Darling Railway Station was opened in 1890. Jesus! The station was named after the former Governor of Victoria, Sir Charles Henry Darling. Well. Well, I guess that settles it. Right. I don't know. Darling became Governor and Captain-Chief of Jamaica. What? He started his colonial service while in Jamaica. Ah, yes, Jamaica. Another colony. He served in the British West Indies until he retired and then settled in Jamaica, where he often clashed with leaders of the free people of colour. Wow. Context of the history of slavery in the Americas. The free people of colour were primarily people of mixed African, European and Native American descent who were not enslaved. Wow. And he has a train station named after him in Victoria. He's also got a street named after him in Ballarat. Jesus. Oh my God. Oh, hang on. Here we go. His first marriage was on the 2nd of May, 1835 to some bird. They had a son who died in infancy, and the woman had come from a wealthy family who owned a plantation in Barbados. Through Anne's will, Darling would receive some money, although she died before her mother who had owned the slaves. Oh, God. So he didn't get slaves because his mother-in-law was still alive when his wife died. So he was just given his walking papers and a fistful of dollars and sent on his way, eventually coming to Victoria. Interesting. And he would become governor. What a life. And it was a thing, I got on that train and the smell of Lynx just hit me, like cheap deodorant. And it was like overpowering, like a stench. I couldn't handle it. So I started walking through the carriage. You could like find a seat or something. There was no seats. And I've walked to the other side of the carriage, and then the smell of urine hit me. Oh, what is this? This is seemingly a more fancy line than the one I grew up on. And it's either get, gassed to death by cheap deodorant or die from the smell of urine. Aren't there cameras on trains now? Surely someone urinates on a train, like there's someone on him before he gets off at the next stop. And the balls of it too. Someone just to pull it out. I'm assuming it's a man. I mean, it could have been a woman just sitting down in a chair. Who knows? But yeah, the balls of a lot of, very bold individuals in Melbourne. I don't know. Anyway, I rabbited on. There was a few things I specifically wanted to talk about. And I wanted to talk about it before the hype died. But, what was it? I actually remember. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now I remember. Our favorite, I don't know what to call her, stalwart, Amazonian warrior woman of Hollywood, Jada Pinkett Smith. She had something to do with a documentary that's taken the world by storm. I'm just looking it up because I can't remember the actual facts around it. I can't remember what her role was. I think she was a producer. Was it? I think she was a producer. Oh, executive produced, of course. Jada Pinkett Smith's series, 4-part series, Cleopatra. And she's been quoted as wanting to use the show to represent black women. Now, once I saw the trailer, I just started laughing and I felt sad. And then I made this reel for Instagram. For the gram. I had to do it. It was just too ridiculous, seriously. But I made this one. It just shows the trailer and then my take on it as well.
I remember my grandmother saying to me, I don't care what they tell you in school, Cleopatra was black.
Mama's wrong again.
This clip really annoyed me. It was only the trailer, and it really, really shit me to tears, like big time. Now, for context, I have no idea who the woman was that provided us with that fantastic quote. You know, she remembers her grandmother saying, I don't care what they teach you in school, Cleopatra was black. I have no idea who that woman is. I'm not even going to dignify the doco by watching it or looking her up. But it made me laugh because it's like they found some random black woman who gave us a random quote by some woman. Now, this woman is, she looks to be about 70 or so, 60, 70. So assuming she was born, in the 40s, no later than the late 40s, like no way. 40s to early 50s, I wouldn't put her past that. Meaning her grandmother was probably born, in the end of the 1800s, middle 1800s or something. It made me laugh because, like, who cares? Look what your grandmother says. She's like, really? Like, was she a scholar? Like, I don't give a shit. All she's saying is, like it's an authority thing to play through the trailer. Like, that's the most gripping bit of evidence they have to promote the whole series. Nevertheless, my point was, there's some brilliant quotes that have come out from this. So Jada Pinkett Smith said she wanted to use the show to represent black women. Black women. The director came out and said that Cleopatra was no more Greek. Cleopatra was no more Greek than Jennifer Aniston. Jennifer Aniston is Greek American. Like, What do you mean? Dude. Like, Jennifer Aniston's father was like Greek. He was famously Greek. He only passed away, I think it was last year. Yeah, it was last year. He was famously Greek. Hang on, and wait a second. Hang on. He was born in Chania, in Crete. It's like the most Greek island. Like, I've been to Chania. His name was Anastasakis. Like, he was Greek. But the woman that they've got playing Cleopatra in this doco is clearly black. She's mixed, mixed race, but she's black. And these freaking quotes are just like, hang on, here's some more beautiful quotes from the director. Why couldn't Queen Cleopatra be black? Because she wasn't black. Their quote is, I remember as a kid seeing Elizabeth Taylor play Cleopatra. I was captivated, but even then I felt the image was not right. Was her skin really that white? After 300 years, surely we can say Cleopatra was Egyptian. She was no more Greek or Macedonian than Rita Wilson or Jennifer Aniston. Both are one generation from Greece. Dude, having Elizabeth Taylor play Cleopatra, fine, right? There's a whitewashing in Hollywood. We all know that. That's not a secret. Especially, that's the golden era. Cleopatra was the 60s. Elizabeth Taylor was at her peak in the 60s, for fuck's sakes, right? But, number one, Cleopatra wasn't Egyptian, right? She was the Egyptian queen, but she was a direct descendant from Ptolemy, right? Alexander the Great. There's a reason why Alexandria is a city in Egypt. There's a reason why they spoke ancient Greek. There's a reason why there's ancient Greek texts, because Alexander, got to Egypt, revered. And Cleopatra was a direct descendant of of Ptolemy, Macedonian Greeks. And this is the thing. I hate it when non-Greeks or people that don't understand history start getting involved in this argument. It's like, oh, they were Macedonians, they weren't Greeks. Like, no, you don't understand. All right. Back then, many, many years ago, right, a lot of places in Europe, they weren't nations united the way they are now under one flag, one anthem, blah, 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 right? They were sovereign states, municipalities, they were broken down, yeah? And they're still very, very proud of it. If you go to Greece, there's 1,000 states and territories and shit like that. Here we've got 4 states, 5 states, 6 states, you know what I mean? Very broad. In a country the size of Victoria, so many districts, and they were divided and they weren't. So they'd, common elements, like language and religion or whatever. But, they weren't divided. They were typically divided until they had to go to war, right? So the distinct lines between the Spartans, the Athenians, the Corinthians, etc., etc. Now, to say that Cleopatra wasn't Greek because she was Macedonian is a joke, right? It's ancient Greece. And then you can't say that and then say she was Egyptian because there was no Centrelink. Right? She spoke multiple languages, right? She married a Roman, but she was Greek. She had Greek background. She spoke ancient Greek. Give me a fucking break. And then to say she's no more Greek than Rita Wilson or Jennifer Aniston, sure, fine. But Jennifer Aniston still identifies with her Greek heritage. Yeah. And Jennifer Aniston doesn't look white, pasty white, like Elizabeth Taylor or, I don't know, Ed Sheeran or something. Yeah, the same way I don't. We have olive skin. You leave me in the sun for a day and I'm dark as fuck. I'm not saying I'm black, I'm just saying, right? We don't have pasty pink white skin. And maybe Cleopatra shouldn't have been played by Elizabeth Taylor in the 60s, despite the fact that Elizabeth Taylor was a revered actor at the height of the golden era of Hollywood. So yes, let's not get the biggest actor in the world to play, a key figure in a movie. But the movie Cleopatra with Elizabeth Taylor didn't try to pass itself off as a documentary. And that's where the problem lies. This is a documentary. Okay? And Jada Pinkett Smith says she's going to use the show to represent black women. Cleopatra wasn't black. You're rewriting history now. And you know what? And it's the thing. I went and saw Hamilton. I think it was last year. Yeah, it was last year. I saw Hamilton, right? And Hamilton is a retelling of, the story of the forefathers in America, and Anthony Hamilton, blah, 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 right? The whole thing. And it's done in the form of hip hop and R&B with like black actors, which is cool, right? It's not a documentary. It's a theater show. And they try to pass off historical facts in different format, which is cool. Like that was the whole grab of it. That was the whole point. Let's recreate the story, but let's use black actors and let's do, a different style. But it's not a doco. And no one's ever going to look at the black actor in that played George Washington in Hamilton and say, oh, he should have been white. It's like, no, the context of the show, this is what it is. But this doco, this is a documentary. It makes no sense. I can't. Cast whoever you want, but you can't rewrite history, seriously. And I think that trailer really annoyed me just because of that woman. Maybe I'll look into it just for the sake of seeing who that woman is and who her grandmammy was. Just like, I'm going to say, no, bitch, you're wrong and your grandmother's wrong. Like, I grew up in a house where my mother told me that, Cleopatra was Greek. Because she was Greek. I can't. I just can't. This whole, it's not even woke. It just makes no sense. Like, it literally makes no sense. It's just lies. It gets me very, very tired. Anyway. Okay, I'm just looking at the time. I've been talking for half an hour. I'm going to need at least half an hour to edit this, and I've got a meeting starting in half an hour, so I should probably get off. Thank you for your continued support despite the lack of episodes. Thank you again to people that have, bought us a coffee. It's very much appreciated. Never in the world did I ever think I'd have random strangers on the internet, buy me a coffee just because I talk shit into a microphone. Really, really would appreciate some feedback. Let me know what you want to hear more of. Let me know what you want to hear less of, and I'll get rid of you on straight away. Look, to be fair, I'd sort of fallen off the podcast a bit in the last month just based on, life stuff. And over the last couple of weeks, I've been slowly listening to a lot of older episodes, and I find myself laughing just randomly. I'll be walking through a shopping center or something, doing my groceries, and people just looking at me strange, and I'm realizing it's because I'm laughing, I'm listening to back some of the crap that we go on about, and it's just so ridiculous. Like, I was listening to an episode the other day, it was like 132 or something. It was end of 2021. So, good year and a bit. And John and Andy both had taken on new jobs. And we went on about it for about 40 minutes. And I couldn't get through with it. I just kept laughing. We just hammer each other over the most random crap. It's funny to us. And at the end of the day, it's funny to me. So I'm going to keep putting it up. I'm sorry if it's not your cup of tea and there's some other directive that you want this thing to take. But without feedback, we don't know. I don't know. So, yeah, any feedback, requests, anything, please contact us. Message me via Insta or Facey. Maybe not Facey because I don't get on Facey anymore. Email, therealdukeLeverage@gmail.com. Find us. There's ways to find us. Just comment on one of the posts and, I'll see it eventually. But, yeah. Thanks again for listening. Please keep liking, sharing, following, subscribing. I still meet people randomly at get-togethers and stuff. And one's like, oh, you're the guy with the podcast. Yeah, I've heard it. I'm like, how? It's like, oh, someone shared it to me and I've been listening for a bit, or things like that. And I was like, it's humbling. It's really, really nice. But there's so many people that listen religiously but have never shared it with anyone. It's like a dirty little secret. I don't know. Maybe they're just embarrassed by the content. I've got no idea. But, yeah, I see the numbers of listeners going up. So I know people are listening. But, yeah, it's just strange. Like, the most random people are the ones that are going to be liking and promoting your work for you. I guess you're relying on the kindness of strangers, I guess, sometimes. Which, It's a bit upsetting. It's disheartening. It doesn't matter. Yeah, anyway. Don't know when the next episode's coming, but I will do my best. And, yeah. Smoke crack.
Hold up.